Guys, our concluding guest speaker this evening is someone who I've got a very special place in my heart for. In fact, I had the privilege of being involved with this wonderful woman from the very beginning of her starting here at ASEA, and had a chance to work closely with her and kind of watch her from her very beginning to where she is today. Uh, this evening we have with us one of our newest triple diamonds, Debbie Wetzler, and I'll tell you, if you hear Debbie's story and you're not inspired to do something in your life, then you might be on the wrong call. So certainly thrilled to have Debbie with us tonight. Debbie, please go ahead and share your story with us.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you very much for having me on the call. I pretty much owe my life to ASEA at this point, and it has given me such great pleasure to work with people like Alex Asante, who is a great man and takes back to his home in Ghana to share with people there to help their lives also. He works very hard, so congratulations, Alex. My story started years ago, about 6 years ago at this point, right before the launch of the product. And I had a beautiful, blessed life my whole life. I had two beautiful children. I'd been married. I had been entrepreneurial. I'd owned my own businesses. I'd always been successful, and I had a really great life. I had nothing ever to complain about, and I still don't. However, you are meant to learn lessons in this life. I truly believe that. And just like Justin's father, who his story is just beautiful, I had a very good friend, and she called me about the business. And it's changed my life with friends around the world, as we say. But I went through, several years ago, a divorce, and that leaves you, as many of you know, with not much money and not much support. You do things all by yourself at that point. I had two beautiful children, and my son had gone off to college, and so he wasn't in need of me as much, but my daughter was still at home. And when her father left and her brother left for college, I can tell you that it really took a toll on her. She had been very close to her father, and she was without any male support at all, and it just crushed her. And so I was left with that very daunting project or duty of trying to get her to know how much she was loved, but yet on the other hand to discipline her because she was still a teenager, and if you have a teenage girl, you know that one. And so I was left with doing that and without much money. And then the company I was working for in 2008, when the economy got so bad, ended up going bankrupt. And I was literally left with nothing, no money coming in at all. And for months and months on end, because I'd been an interior designer, I was looking for jobs. And I can tell you that nobody wanted an interior designer in 2008. People didn't have the money to decorate their homes or pay for their homes, much less. So many of them were being foreclosed on. And I finally got a job as a server in a restaurant. And they kind of wondered if I would be able to keep up, and I guaranteed them that I would. So I was running around, and I had to work double shifts just to make enough money to pay for what I needed, the electricity in the house, the water, everything. But work as hard as I could from, as Alex said, when you have a job that owns you, I would go in and work double shifts, 10 in the morning till midnight, 1 or 2, because they stayed open very late, just to try to make enough money to make things work. And as hard as I worked and as good as I became as being a server, I just wasn't making enough to cover the mortgage. And so I kept applying for about 4 years to lower my mortgage interest rate so that I could save my home. But they kept turning me down because I just wasn't making enough money. And I finally got the letter that I dreaded getting, and I opened it, and they were going to foreclose on my house. And I can tell you that my daughter's face was the first thing to fly up in my mind, and I thought, I cannot look at her in the face and tell her now we were going to be homeless, on top of losing her brother in her mind and her father. And I just burst into tears. And I went upstairs and I prayed for something. I loved helping people. I loved helping do whatever I could. I'd always wanted to be a scientist and find a cure for something, but I prayed and prayed, and the very next morning, this is what really got me. This is what made me look at this very carefully. The very next morning is when Colorado called and said, Debbie, there's been some major breakthrough that you need to know about. And so I went downstairs right away, and I just kind of looked up and said, if this is it, then thank you, because this was the fastest answer to a prayer I'd ever had. And I watched a video about 4 times. I was astounded. I thought, if this is true, this seems huge. And so I called a girlfriend of mine, a molecular biologist who had graduated from Johns Hopkins, very smart, and works at one of our national institutions here. And when I took the information to her, because I'd never heard of redox molecules, she just looked at me with eyes about as big as moons, and she just said, Debbie, I've been studying this for 17 years at this point. And she said, we've had scientists from around the world come and try to do this very thing. Are you telling me somebody was finally able to stabilize these molecules outside the human body in a bioactive form? And when I said, well, yes, she said, Debbie, you have no idea how massive this is. This is going to change everything in the health field that you could possibly imagine. And she went on to describe what redox molecules were for me. And I could not believe what I was hearing, what she said these molecules were doing for the body. And I was lucky enough, I was dead broke at the time, and I had a pilot friend, and he gave me a buddy pass to fly to the launch of the product. And I got there, and I got to see people like Justin tell his story about his dad. I got to see Vertus and Jim Pack and Dr. Gary Salmison. I got to see a doctor's panel that I just could not believe some of the things I was hearing and some of the testimonials I heard. And when I found out about the integrity of this company and the founders of it and how they turned down this large check so they didn't have to look people in the eye, 40 of their friends and family, and tell them they couldn't have the product anymore, I just thought, I have found my home. And I can tell you that in 2 months, I was able to turn around myself completely so that I could reapply for the loan modification. And they accepted it this time, so I was able to save my house. And within another year and a half, because I was only able to work about 20 minutes a day, just sharing this with people, I was able to turn myself around enough to pay for my son's wedding and to end the job at the restaurant so I could do this full time. I have now traveled around the world, everywhere, to places like Sweden, where I just was, and Norway and Finland, and places all around the United States and Canada, just having friends and loving people and being able to help people get ahead with their lives. And this has changed my life completely, and I cannot see myself ever stopping what I'm doing. And I intend to be just like Justin's father, to have friends all around the world continuously until the day I die. And so it's with great pleasure that I'm on this phone call tonight. I can say, take a look at this. First of all, you won't find another product like it anywhere in the world. We're one of a kind. But then how it can change your life in so many other ways will astound you. So please take a close look at this. And when you find out about the integrity, the ethos, and everything of this company, I'm sure you'll find, if this resonates with you, that this is a beautiful fit for you to do it part-time or full-time. So thank you, Justin, so much for having you on. You have no idea how much I love this company and you. And thanks for helping me when I began. You were a big part.
Thanks, Debbie. Certainly appreciate you. I never tire of hearing your story. I have to tell you, one of my fondest memories here at ASEA is the first day I met this lovely woman, and I have to tell you, I was so impressed with her and just her demeanor and her professionalism, and she was just a wonderful person, had an aura about her. She invited us to her restaurant for lunch, and I just, in my own mind, I just assumed that she owned the restaurant. And later found out that, as you heard in her story, that she was working there. And boy, I'll tell you, ever since then, it's given me a great deal of pleasure to watch Debbie and to see her success and what this has meant for her in her life. So thanks again, Debbie. It's a great honor to have you on the call with us.
Of course.
Appreciate it.